Hello, guys. Welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having an amazing day. I hope you're having an amazing week. You know what? We have no time to waste with small chit chat, so let's just get straight into it. If you haven't noticed by now, I love making lists. They make me feel like I actually have my life together. And sometimes a feeling of accomplishment when things are actually falling apart is everything I need. And this week, in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about the newest list I compiled. As you've already probably seen by the title, I'm going to share with you advice I would give my younger self. Let's just say advice I would give my 16-year-old-ish self. The thing is, younger me would have never even wanted to hear a word from current me, but oh well. If parallel universes are true and they exist, I hope there is one out there in which the younger me gets to hear what the current me has to say and actually decides to listen for once in her life. But since we have no tangible proof that parallel universes are a real thing, or at least we don't as of now, maybe this advice could be helpful to some of you out there. Of course, take this advice with a grain of salt, because I'm only 22, and while I supposedly know more stuff and have more experience than a 16-year-old, what do I really know about life in the grand scheme of stuff? Not much. So, if you disagree with what I'm about to say, absolutely, by all means, feel free to cuss me out. Maybe, let's put it like this. If you ever decide to take advice from me or from this podcast, it is all on you, babe. Don't hold me accountable. I don't promise that those things are universally applicable, and I don't guarantee your happiness and easiness or whatever. They're just lessons that I have learned through the course of my life, through the course of my personal experiences, and if they don't apply to you, just don't do them. Anyways, enough of that. Let's just get into it. Here is my newest list, which is the top 5 pieces of advice I would give my younger self. Advice number 1 I would tell my younger self is to eradicate the concept of embarrassment from her mind. I spent a lot of my youth feeling embarrassed about who I was, about what I did, what I said, what I thought. I would overanalyze every single thing I did, to the most minuscule act, everything. I would hyper-focus on my presence within a group of people. I would be hyper-aware of what everyone was doing and was projecting every single emotion they felt onto me. I would obsess over the way I looked to them, the way I carried myself, the type of energy I brought to a room. And while being mindful of your presence, of your being is crucial, what is not cool, what is detrimental even, is when I felt embarrassed about being me within a space, within a time, within a group. And here, I'm not talking only about feeling like I don't belong within that space, within that group, which is a whole another different subject. What I mean is, I felt awkward. I felt like I was too loud, too up in people's faces. I could never shut up. And I wonder why I have a podcast now. I was either saying the wrong things or doing the wrong things or even causing the wrong situations. And my face definitely showed everything I thought. Because to this day, I am unable to hide my emotions. If you listened to episode 2, you already know this. I get as red as a tomato when I feel embarrassed or shy. And when I cringe, well, let's just put it like this. You will be able to tell when I cringe. So back in those situations, I felt like I made people feel awkward. I made myself feel awkward. I felt like every single breath I took was cringeworthy. And I would cause conversations, I thought I would cause conversations and situations in which people would mock me and come up with a nasty nickname, and that nasty nickname would always stay with me forever, and I would always and forever be known as that nickname instead of who I actually am. Over exaggeration much? Now, looking back at this, I definitely recognize the terrible projections I put onto other people. I couldn't know for a fact if someone even thought any of this, if I ever made anyone feel embarrassed for me. Actually, you know what? I'm sure I have made a fool out of myself more than once. But my point is, I was projecting that embarrassment because I find myself cringeworthy. I didn't feel comfortable within my skin, and that's why I thought everyone felt the same way about me. I felt like I was straight up unnecessary and too much. And most of the times that was so unjustified. Thinking about it now, I cannot name a single instance off the top of my head in which my embarrassment was justified. Okay, I do have one, but I'm not going to share it because it's embarrassing. And I know the entire point of me saying this advice is to eradicate a concept of embarrassment, but this one, if I ever want to find a job, I would keep this one to myself. But anyways, if any of this sounds too familiar to you, just know that you're not alone. Now, what changed? Why have I decided to ditch this feeling of embarrassment? Well, it was in a conversation maybe 1 or 2 years ago. I don't remember exactly. The time is not important. I was talking to this friend and she jokingly said, well, cringiness is a choice. And in the moment we laughed, but then after that conversation, when I went back home, I actually started thinking about what she said. And she is fully correct. Before anything else, because she's a woman, so of course she is by default right. But when you actually think about it, cringiness is a choice. Being cringy, feeling cringy, all of those things are a choice. We may not be able to control who we love and how we feel in a certain situation, but we can always choose to be okay with ourselves in a situation, to feel confident. Just, overall, we can choose not to feel the cringiness of a situation, be it cringiness and embarrassment that was evoked by us or by someone else. Ever since I realized this, my life has changed for the better. Now I approach situations and people differently, because no matter what happens, I won't feel embarrassment the way I used to. Of course, there are things I do and say which are objectively questionable, but I don't let them consume me anymore. I have a good laugh and I move on. And yes, when I look back on certain situations, I do ask myself often, why did I act this way? And I feel sorry for little me, but I cannot let embarrassment rule my life. Now I know that people with anxiety are screaming at me, it is easier said than done. And that is true. As someone who has already walked at least part of that road, I recognize that I am making it seem like it's the easiest thing to do in the world. But I haven't forgotten the social anxiety from before. Now, my relationship with social anxiety is very particular, and maybe, you know what, I will go into it for a bit to actually give you a sense of what my relationship with social anxiety is and how it has changed. The first time I recognized I had social anxiety was in university. I know. How lucky am I to only taste it that late in life? The thing is, for 10 years of my life, a little bit more, I was a competitive trampoline gymnast. I know. If you don't know me personally and you didn't know this about me already, you're probably out there listening and saying, wait a second, rewind. We missed the whole season of the show. Maybe one day I will share my experience as a trampoline gymnast with you. There are many things that shaped me as a person in that period, which I believe will stay with me forever. But the reason I'm bringing it up right now is because ever since I was a child, up until my middle to late teens, which is when I quit trampoline gymnastics, I had to compete in the tiniest revealing bodysuit in front of an audience. Now this, as you can imagine, raised a lot of body image issues, but this is not my point here. The point is, I was forced for over a decade to be my most vulnerable self in front of strangers. And when you're in it, of course, as a woman, you don't want to be exposed. And I am saying as a woman because men's competitive attire was t-shirts and shorts or long pants. So there was no revealing happening in the same way it happened to us. And this, it bothered me quite a lot in the moment, especially when I became a teenager and stuff were changing. But also, it's somehow in a very weird way, in a way that I cannot explain because I don't actually understand it. It filled me with some sort of confidence, even some cockiness, which transpired in every aspect of my life. I was never anxious in school, for instance. I was a good student. I was very outspoken. And being called out or being within a space never really bothered me because I was fully clothed. And I've done far more impressive things when I was forced to be less clothed. I think I'm making it more complicated than it needs to be. But, you get my point, I feel like. I wasn't a socially anxious person. I didn't grow up socially anxious in the sense social anxiety, in the way I felt social anxiety when I came to university. When I came to uni, it was like the old me died. And not just in this aspect, in many more aspects. And I would love to dedicate an entire episode to this because coming to university changed me to my core. But let's just stick with this one aspect for now. So the old me died. I was doing everything the opposite way than old me would have done it. And I personally believe that it was the pandemic, aka everyone being isolated and having to re-enter society as if nothing had happened when the entire world was changed forever. But also, it was moving abroad, being alone, not knowing anybody, not having friends, speaking in a different language, having to start from scratch, those stuff that they just made me absolutely and utterly anxious. The first ever anxiety attack caused by embarrassment happened in my very first lecture. The teacher asked us to introduce ourselves and, of course, to say 3 interesting facts about ourselves. Can we not do this, please? It is so unnecessary. I am never listening with too much attention to what other people were saying because I am too focused on not mispronouncing my own name. So, yeah, that practice, it needs to stop. Thank you very much. So, yeah, he asks us to say 3 things about ourselves, and I was the last to go. And everyone the entire time was talking about how their legacy within the university, how they have achieved this and that, how they have experience in the field and blah, 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 blah. And my turn comes. And I just say, I am Martina. I am from Bulgaria. And I like Harry Styles. The teacher looked at me with pity and was like, as if to say, is that all? Oh God, I feel like I will never, ever actually forget this until the day I die. It is the moment in which my anxiety/embarrassment cherry was popped. So, you never forget your first time. For 2 years after this incident, let's call it, I would not raise my hand in class, even if I knew the answer or had any questions, because I didn't want to embarrass myself. And then I had this conversation with that friend, the one who told me that embarrassment is a choice. And by that point, I was tired of hiding, of being embarrassed, of being anxious about my existence, because I didn't used to be like this. It was so alien to me. And this strange feeling was now what was ruling my life. It was guiding me through my day-to-day experiences. And it was just exhausting. So I decided to give her mantra a try. I decided to choose not to be embarrassed. Ever since then, I haven't felt the level of social anxiety I used to. Of course, I'm still navigating social anxiety and trying not to make a fool out of myself in times when it will eventually matter. But overall, since I began to preach this concept of embarrassment is a choice, I've become more carefree when it comes to not knowing, when it comes to not doing, and so forth and so forth. And I really wish Martina from a few years ago didn't waste so much time feeling embarrassed, because embarrassment stopped me from doing things I wanted to do. It stopped me from being authentic. It stopped me from being clueless in times when I was entitled to cluelessness. I guess it took me growing up to realize that nothing in this life is actually embarrassing. Nothing is really that serious because nobody has a clue what is going on. Everybody is going through this for the first time and is abiding to some rules and is trying to do their best. Society is made up and the rules it abides to are made up. And they don't really matter. Embarrassment shouldn't deprive us of the right to live, of the right to speak, of the right to be. After all, when you think about it, we are living on a floating rock that rotates in an ever-expanding space, and we are here only for a fraction of a time. And I hate to break it to you, but one day we're all going to die and nobody's going to remember us. Unless you're Zendaya, of course. Zendaya is unforgettable. God made man and sent Zendaya as an apology. But the rest of us, common folk, will be forgotten. Some faster than others, but all of us. And that is a given. And the fact that you said spork and foon instead of fork and spoon will not matter, Martina. It will not. And the fact that the only interesting thing about yourself you could come up with is that you like the most mainstream artist won't matter in a week, let alone for the rest of your life. So don't let it haunt you for the rest of your life. That corny saying about the 5x5 rule is actually so true. Don't invest more than 5 minutes worrying about something that will not matter in 5 years. Have a good laugh and move on. Choosing to see your quote-unquote embarrassing or cringy moments with humor, see them as a great story for the future, will ease your mind and your life. Carrying yourself with pride, even when you say spork and food, and when all you do is listen to Harry Styles, is all that matters. So don't feel embarrassed to make mistakes, to be present, to take up space. It literally doesn't matter. The second advice I would give my younger self is somewhat related to this first one, but let's just say that it is on a broader scale. What I would tell my younger self is not to waste her time thinking about what other people might be thinking. And I am not only talking about what they might be thinking of me, but wait, let's just explore this for a second. I actually touched upon this very briefly, but maybe I didn't make myself explicitly clear, so let's just take the essence from it. So here's the thing. We can never fully know what other people are thinking of us unless they explicitly say it. Everything else is a projection. I used to approach a lot of situations with the mentality that those people don't or will not like me. Shout out to Martina, who decided to move to a different country with the mentality, nobody here will like me, and for a long time stayed away from people because she was convinced there was nothing worth liking about her. Babe, what? That is so outrageous and mentally and emotionally exhausting. How do I know that those people will not like me? I don't. That is the thing. But I still approached every single interaction I had when moving here with that mentality. When you think about it, it was definitely a self-projection. A projection which reflected how I thought about myself. A projection which reflected how I perceived myself. I approached strangers with the thought that they will dislike me simply because I disliked myself. I have to admit, this is also advice I would give my current self as well. I have been improving on this aspect, but it is still very difficult to fully eradicate this mentality. I am still trying to recognize when I'm projecting my own opinions about me on others, and it is not healthy for me. It is not healthy for my relationship with those people, and it is just overall ill. But yeah, with this second advice, this is not my main point. My main point, what I'm trying to achieve with this second advice, is to call for clear communication. Don't waste your time thinking about what others might be thinking. Just ask. So many problems can be avoided with clear communication. So much pain can be prevented. So much time can be saved. So many tears can be left unshed. Just talk. Don't be afraid to ask people. Don't be afraid to tell people. Communication is key. I'm not saying communicating won't cause any problems. Of course it sometimes will. But I would much rather feel the pain of knowing something, the anger from a fight, the frustration from an insult or whatever, than feel the pain of doubting, of speculating, of questioning. While the first ones I can overcome with clarity, the second one just sends you into a mental rut. Not knowing, but thinking that you know because you speculate, because you self-project on others, is so detrimental and exhausting. You cannot know what people are thinking unless you ask them. And let me just quickly mention that you cannot demand clear communication unless you reciprocate. People are not puzzles to be solved. Be clear with your actions, don't lead other people on, and while you're not responsible for them, feel some responsibility for giving them clarity and hold yourself accountable when you create an emotional mess. Own up to it, apologize, and learn from the situation. Our time here is so limited. There is no need to waste it in doubts and speculations. Get clear answers and take no answers as an answer. Just please, whatever you do, do not invest time and energy trying to shed every single layer of every single situation in order to find the one cue which might indicate how the other person is feeling. Just ask them. They say comparison is the thief of joy. I say speculation is the thief of sanity. Advice number 3 I would give my younger self is perhaps the one I stand by the most. And it is, don't invest energy and time in trying to impress people you don't even like. I am so guilty of this, or at least used to be. I would like to think that I have moved on from this mentality, but I have mentioned before that I am a chronic people pleaser. And yes, I do still have those tendencies in me. But this one in particular, trying to impress people I don't even like, I have thankfully left behind. However, it took me a lot of time, a lot of work on myself to make myself likable to me, to stop wanting to be likable to others. Learning to like myself was harder than learning to love myself. Learning to like myself has been one of, even if not the hardest lesson I have had to learn. And it is not a one and done. You have to revise that lesson every single day. But until I achieved this, until I earned it, I was relying on external forms of validation. And the thing is, I was seeking validation from people I do not align with when it comes to the way we approach life. Thinking about this, I will just give you an example. Before I say anything, this is not me being a pick me. This is way past me. This is just me trying to illustrate my point. So, when I used to live in Bulgaria, I used to be best friends since childhood with the it girl from my town. We met in the hall where I used to practice daily for my gymnastics. Anyways, ironically, neither of us live in Bulgaria anymore, but that is not the point. That girl and I are no longer that close, but if she listens to this, by any chance, I have an upcoming trip in your area, so check your messages, because I'd love to hang out. Anyways, just straight to the example. The thing is, that girl was always popular. Not only with people my age, but also with older and younger, at the time, kids. And I totally understand why. Like, she's beyond kind and funny, and the fact that she's absolutely stunning doesn't hurt. It was and still is hard not to love her. And she had a very extensive circle of people who admired her, and in particular guys who liked her. And because her and I were inseparable, I was within that circle, but I was just there. I was never impressionable, never noticeable, blah, blah. And looking back, I really understand why that was the case. Dude, on a very basic physical level, I was not the prettiest side out there. Glasses that do not suit your face shape and braces for 6 years will do that for you. Also, your mom being your hairdresser when she doesn't know her way around scissors will also contribute to that. I'm not even going to get into my questionable fashion choices and color combinations. You know what? In the wise words of Kendall Jenner, it was Coachella 2016 or 2014. That was the vibe at the time. You just had to be there. Also, I was literally out there going fishing with my dad, and I'm posting pictures with me holding a fish. I was a literal Tinder man all throughout. An absolute swipe left. What can I say? I can just hope and pray that I've evolved at least a little bit. Like when I go fishing now with my dad, I don't post the pictures. And I don't have braces anymore. And I found better glasses. And now I actually go to the hairdressers. Anyways, so yeah. My best friend was the it girl. And I was just there. Now, my friend has never in our friendship made me feel like I have to earn my presence in her life. She's never made me feel less than her. But in the mind of a teenager, aka a person who doesn't know who they are, a person who takes everything extremely personally and thinks that the world revolves around them, it is very difficult not to want to be likable. So I tried desperately to make myself likable to her extensive social circle. Cannot tell you how many times I have bent over backwards to change myself, to make myself more pleasing to other people, to those people. I have done things I am not proud of and hung out with people who I would pay serious money to forget. People, who if I saw them on the street now, I would contemplate saying hi to. And I just wanted them to like me for whatever reason. Say what you want, but I won't believe you if you say that you've never had a point in your life in which you've sought external validation of some similar sort. So yeah, those people. I didn't like them then, and I don't like them now. The thing is, I was dying for them to like me. And now I just hope they don't remember who I am. Those people who I spent a significant chunk of my time trying to appease, trying to impress, are now people I actively try not to attract. If I received validation from those people, I would genuinely be concerned about myself. Not that they're bad people or anything. They're just not my cup of tea. Anyways, wish them well and hope they're doing fine. My point is, I invested so much time and energy into making myself likable to people I don't even want to be associated with. Seeking validation, seeking confirmation for your likability is, I feel, ingrained in us though. We are, after all, part of a society, and we do not want to be singled out from the tribe or become an outcast. However, I feel like being liked by the right people is more important than being liked by all people. Because, first of all, being liked by all people is unrealistic. If everybody likes you, I do not trust you. There is something fishy. To me, it signals that you might be a moral bender. You might be just a mirror, someone without clear-cut boundaries, someone without an identity, someone without guidelines to what they would put up with and what they refuse to tolerate just to make everyone happy. And trust me, been there, done that. I don't judge, I just don't want to associate. I don't want people in my life who are liked by everyone. That means that there is something sneaky. And moreover, I don't want people who claim they like everyone, but are secretly a hater or whatever. Be a hater, but just tell me so we can hate together. You know what I mean. Overall, my idea is, if you don't like someone, why would you want them to like you? Why invest time and energy into something that doesn't bring you health, happiness, money, or opportunities? Just saying. You know what I'm getting at, don't you? I am happy I'm not liked by those people. It would be concerning if they like me, because they would like-minded people, and I would like to think that I'm not a like-minded person. How many times can I say the word like in one sentence? Every time I say the word like, take a shot. Yeah, so the right people won't need you to change to enjoy your presence. And the right people shouldn't be anxiety-inducing. Shouldn't make you question every single thing you say or do. And they most definitely won't make you hate yourself or who you've become. You just know that they are the right people. Be of substance to the people that matter. The other ones don't even bother with. Let them find the right people for them while you're finding the right people for you. We are now on to advice number 4. A thing I really wish younger me knew and practiced. A thing that would have saved so much pain if I did it correctly. My 4th advice to my younger self is to be brave enough to leave people and situations that do not serve her anymore, but to leave them in a non-hurtful and more respectful way. Here, the situations and people I'm referring to are not the ones in which I have been outwardly or subtly disrespected. Although, Learning to leave when you're no longer appreciated is a key lesson that everyone should learn at one point or another in their life. But no, this is not what I have in mind here. I am talking about outgrowing people or simply not aligning with them anymore. I have touched upon this before in my birthday episode. If you want to get a more extensive account on my opinion on this, just go check it out. It is, I think, episode number 4. It's titled 4 Things I Learned at 21. Can you tell I don't listen to my episodes? Anyway, but let's just quickly sum it up. I spent so much time trying to resuscitate relationships which were so beyond their expiration date. The reason I would do it is because I would hold on to the good moments. I would hold on to the idea that this person has been in my life for so long. What I have come to realize is that sometimes a good memory is all there is. And a good memory doesn't mean a good future. Learning to let go of what and who no longer serves you is crucial. When you do it, you're not leading either party on. Not wasting each other's times mutually is what you would get out of this. Now, the problem I had for a significant chunk of my time is that I would leave those situations in a very disrespectful manner. And I don't mean with a fight or anything. That I think is a given. What I mean is when I would literally ghost people in real life and just stop talking to them because I didn't have the courage to tell them what bothered me. So I just distanced myself from them. I'd go silent. And that is so disrespectful and tasteless and just hurtful. At the time, I didn't know any better, and I wasn't really thinking about how it would make the other person feel. I was being so egoistic. And egoism of that sort has no place in a relationship. Be it a friendship or a romantic relationship or whatever. I have learned from my mistakes. And by the way, I have talked about this with whoever I did it to. The way I approach situations now is different. Again, it all goes back to clear communication. I cannot demand people to give me closure if I don't give them closure. I am ashamed of the way I used to act, but I'm happy that I have learned to recognize the toxicity in that behavior. And I'm proud of myself for growing up enough to let this tendency go. I don't ever want to hurt people. And being respectful to them when I decide to leave is the least I could do for them. Lastly, the last advice I would tell my younger self is to think before she speaks. I am a very impulsive person. I am a very explosive person even. I cannot control my emotions. And this has been me shooting myself in the foot more than once. I have said things I regret simply because I didn't think them through before I spoke. You know how Taylor goes in one of her songs, in All Too Well, so casually cruel in the name of being honest? Unfortunately, I see myself in that line. Or I would like to say that I see my past self in that line because hopefully current me is at least a tad bit better. But it was like I didn't have a filter. Like I didn't know when to shut up. And I'm not talking about yapping here, even though yapping is usually everything I talk about all the time. But I always wanted to have the last word. I wanted to come out on top no matter what, no matter who I heard. And now looking back, I'm thinking, was saying those stuff really necessary? And the answer is no. It took me a lot of work, but I have improved in this aspect significantly. Hopefully, I mean. Now, I even communicate clearly enough to ask people to give me some time to think before I decide how I want to proceed in a certain situation. I know that this is very luxurious because sometimes you cannot afford to take time to think every single thing through, which is why I am grateful that I'm surrounded by people who give me grace to give me time to think about what would the right decision be. Who would have thought that thinking before you speak would save you so much stress, so much pain, and so many problems? Definitely not 16-year-old me. She was something else. I know why she did the things she did. She was hurting, but her hurting didn't give her the right to hurt others. Ever since I started thinking, actually thinking, before speaking, I have become calmer. My communication to others has become more clear and efficient. And I have spared myself lots and lots of trouble. But what I feel is most important, I haven't caused pain in the same way I used to. I think this needs no further explanation. Just people, think. Better to think before you speak and to express yourself the way you want to than to speak too fast and regret it because you caused pain. You know? Now, thinking about those stuff, thinking about all this advice, I will go off the list for a second. Maybe one last thing I'd tell myself, and I won't elaborate on it as much because I genuinely think it is self-explanatory. If I could go back and have a 2-minute conversation with my 16-year-old self, this is what I would tell her. Younger me, enjoy your youth. Be naive. Be clueless. Be courageous. Be unapologetically authentic. Be curious. Ask questions. Seek answers and learn from everything and everyone. Be kind, especially to yourself. Be good to people, but not at the expense of your own sanity. Be mindful of your words and actions. Learn when it is time to let go and don't water dead plants. Learn from your mistakes and don't go into the same situations expecting different results. Learn to breathe and take in every moment because time goes by faster than you think. Younger me, enjoy life. You've only got one. Make it count. Well, guys, this is all I had in store for you and younger me today. If you found any of these helpful or they made you reflect on your life or whatever, I would be so happy to hear your opinion. You can reach me on Instagram and TikTok at @DirtyMartiniPod, or you can leave me a comment here on Spotify. Okay, guys, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. See you next time. Bye.